Today's guest is Rick Wickizer. He's the owner of Wickizer and Associates manufacturer rep firm. All right, Rick, thank you for coming on the show.
Of course, it's a pleasure being here and looking forward to our conversation.
Great. I always like individuals that take an entrepreneurial approach to things. So I'm excited to learn about the origin story of your manufacturing rep firm and what other things you've been doing before and currently.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, there's always a story behind anyone's life, and uh, I'm not unique. I have a story behind where I'm at today as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think your education, you started out quite heavy on the financial side.
Yes, right out of college, I received uh, my finance and management degree from the University of Oregon. Go Ducks! Great year in football. And I started out as a financial planner, and that required a lot of dialing for dollars, picking up the phone, a lot of cold calling. And I was still young and relatively insecure at that time, had a family, I had my third child on the way, and I just could not generate enough revenue to support my family fast enough. So now I'm the only breadwinner in the family, and I had to generate an income. So I did what most people did at that time, is I opened up the want ads and tried to see who was hiring. And at that time, a skylight manufacturing company called Velux was advertising for an outside sales rep. And I interviewed, got the position, and I have never left the building industry since. It's been a great career and a lot of fun and very rewarding financially as well.
Yeah. What did you learn through that first role?
With Velux,
Yeah.
oh boy, I learned a lot because it was really my first opportunity to step into the sales role in the manufacturer's rep role, or the manufacturer's rep role. And what I learned from Velux was displays are very impactful because they're like a silent salesperson. So I was very aggressive in setting up displays. And training and education. So I did a lot of seminars and educating people and empowering them to understand where the binder was and how to access information. So rather than call me, they had all the information right there. So it freed me up to do a lot of prospecting and selling and customer service. And at that time, I was also very involved in just personal development and learning. So I poured myself into at that time, there was no podcasting or that type of thing. It was basically tapes. So I listened to a lot of tapes on personal development, sales, skills, and all that. So uh, our cars are an amazing rolling university that I took advantage of because I had a lot of windshield time as I was taking care of the state of Oregon for VLEX.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about education, but also displays. What sort of things did you do in terms of displays or being having presence inside these? I always assume it's distributors.
Yes, one thing I learned is that where you place the display is usually where it stays. So you have control initially where that display goes, and most people are not going to disturb it. So I struck out and found the best real estate for my display. They were freestanding, and it showed an actual skylight. And make sure they were adequately stocked with literature, and made sure that the counter salespeople, when there were a customer was asking them questions about the skylight, that they were empowered to answer the questions, because a salesperson will not engage unless they feel confident that they have the information or they know where to find the information. That's why the binder was so instrumental in making sure everyone had that information at hand to address those questions.
Got it, for sure. And then I guess regular visits and relationship building.
Regular visits, you can't build a relationship if you don't have regular visits. But the other thing I learned, and it was taught within the VLUX system, was it's not just making sales calls to the distributor. It's also the pull through sales activity. So I also called on a lot of architects, did a lot of architect luncheons, and also talked to a lot of contractors, and essentially pulled the business, from the marketplace into the distributor through influencing those markets. So if you get your product specified, you're halfway there, and if you get the specification and the contractor behind you, you're almost all the way there, because most distributors don't really want to sell. They'd much rather just take an order that someone walks in and says, I want this. And they say, well, I've got it. I'll sell it to you. So the pull-through sales activity I learned was critical in this, especially in this business.
Yeah, for sure. You've worked at other firms in managerial roles. I mean, how do you know who to hire, who to align yourself with in terms of partners?
In the capacity of a regional sales manager, I can speak to that. You're just looking for somebody who has a good personality, has a work ethic. They don't necessarily have to know what you want them to know, because if they have decent intelligence, you can teach that to them. But really, the critical aspect that I looked for was integrity, because in the field, you'll lose relationships, you'll burn relationships if your word is not your bond, if you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do. So, as a person in terms of looking for manufacturer partners as a independent rep, much the same thing is a good product, good support, good people, and high levels of integrity and support.
Yeah, for sure. What made you decide to go off on your own?
Necessity. The recession of the 2008 the clobbered me big time. There's a big story behind that, but essentially the company that I was working for, they fired all their outside salespeople. They basically cleaned house, and so I was without a job. They gave me, I think, 2 months, 3 months severance, so it gave me a little bit of time to try to figure things out. And I did a lot of interviewing in the building industry because that's what I knew, and nobody was hiring. One of my previous employers said, yeah, we'll hire you for half the price and double the territory. And I just wasn't going to do that. So I was aware of the independent rep model, and I believed in myself that I could create a profitable and prosperous rep agency. So at that time, I took what little money I had left. By the way, in terms of the cost, financially, it was devastating. In trying to bootstrap and build a company, my first year's profits were just over $4,000, and I have 7 children, so you can't take care of a family of 7 on $4,000 per year. So I bootstrapped the company with what savings I had and built the company, and we ate rice and beans for a period of time. And fortunately, I was able to pick up a line that provided some immediate revenue and a few other lines that provided a little bit of income. But when you're a rep, you basically eat what you kill, and so you have to go out there and build and grow a line. So the one line that I had that line for 12 years. Built that from about 700,000, and when we finally parted company, we were doing close to $6 million. So that line really buoyed up my business and gave me the cash flow to build and to be a fairly successful agency. Such though I've been able to bring in my oldest son, and he's now my partner, and we work together, and he will be taking over the business when I'm ready to retire. But that's a ways away. I enjoy what I do. So, in fact, retirement's not really in my vocabulary. I'll slow down a little bit, but just going out to pasture is not something that I really, want to do.
Sure. Keys to running a successful rep agency.
I'm sorry?
Keys to running a successful rep agency.
That's a good question. First of all, you have to have good sales skills, good relationship building skills. You have to have the internal personality to connect with people. Also, you have to be a pretty good strategist because each line that you bring on has a separate game plan to grow that line in terms of who you talk to, who you connect with. And so you have to look at each line. Okay, what's the low hanging fruit? How can I build this the most quickest fashion, and then go to work on that plan. Another key in building a successful rep agency is making sure that you have good solid lines that are compatible and hopefully complementary. I know a lot of reps that they sell in the roofing category, the siding category, the flooring, the insulation, and their distribution map is so broad they can't really focus. So we made a decision early on to focus on Division 7, which is the building envelope. And really, of that building envelope, most of our lines are focused on the roofing category.
Yeah, very cool. And I know that you've had a sort of a side coaching thing for many years. It seems it's something you have an interest in and you naturally do. Tell me about that.
Yes, this happened. I've been a certified and trained coach for almost going on 13 years. So when I looked into coaching, I thought this is a great model to help create transformation. I mean, you have the psychologist or counselor, and they're peeling back the onion, and they take a lot of time. There's great value in what they do, but a properly trained coach, they're outcome oriented. It's like, okay, what do you want? I'm going to help you get that through a very powerful and empowering conversation. So I love that model. And I love to influence and help and support people. So I was naturally attracted to that. I wasn't in the position financially to go all in the coaching. So it's been really kind of a sidelight, kind of a background business / hobby. But I'm planning to move more powerfully in that space because as I slow down, coaching is a profession you can take anywhere in the world. You can coach via Zoom now, over the phone, live, however you want to do it, really at any time. So as I gradually step out of the building material sales, I want to focus more on the coaching with the primary niche being the building industry professional, helping them to grow profitable businesses, but more than profitable, meaningful businesses. Because I think profit by itself is a very shallow ideal, because I've had great success. I've had all the trappings of financial success, and it was very shallow. It wasn't until I lost everything during the recession, I stepped back and said, this actually feels pretty good. After you get through the shock, it's like, I feel lighter. And I was able to focus on things that were more meaningful. So in my coaching, I really want to drill down into the individual, what their purpose is as a human being, empower them as a human being to really take control, identify their values and their strengths and so forth, and then make that connection between their who they are as a human being, their values and purpose, and then align their business into that purpose as well.
Yeah. What is your purpose?
It's shifted over the years, but as I get a little bit older, it's like a lot of the things that you want when you're younger seem very shallow now when you're older. And so I just want to be a bright light of truth and support, and I guess using an analogy, it's like you throw a rock in a pond and you have that ripple effect. So I don't want to be a pebble. I want to be a rock, and I want to influence as many people as I possibly can through my selected outlet is through coaching. And that would involve a podcast that I'm planning on launching, and possibly some mastermind groups that I want to create, and some webinar material that I want to create.
Yeah. Speaking about influence, how is it like working with your son?
It's great. It's really a blessing. Um, Growing up and being a father of seven and being very ambitious, I traveled a lot. And so I wasn't an absentee parent, but I was very busy. And then trying to uh, create time with each individual child. It was not a lot of one-on-one time. We did have a date night with each child. We call it the Wick of the Week. Uh, and I'd take them out on a date, an outing or something. And so each child got their one-on-one time with dad each week. We were kind of rotated, but it's great working with Chad. He's a great learner. I mean, he's different than I am. He's a lot more intuitive, and he's very perfectionistic. So I'm very global. I look at the big picture, and Chad will take that picture and he'll bring it down into greater focus, which is a great asset and a great compliment to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess in the EOS world, that's visionary integrator.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and I know that you have some sort of I guess management philosophies based on something. You were talking about Rockefeller habits. What drew you to that sort of methodology or management style?
Well, it's just one of many different management philosophies that I use. Um, I think I'm not one to really drill down on one. I mean, you have so many tools out there. You got Covey's, 7 Habits. You've got, the goal setting tools that are out there. There's what they call it, SWOT assessments to assess a business and growth. Business planning, which I'm a big advocate of. Before you do anything, you develop a concise business plan, not for the financiers, but you do it for yourself. Because if you build a building without a blueprint, it's not going to turn out very well. If you launch a business without a good solid plan, it's probably not going to turn out so well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What when you're not in the business, what do you do?
I used to be a runner. I ran a number of marathons. 10K was my sweet spot. So I was pretty fast for my age, and I enjoyed that. So I ran a lot of competitive running events, bicycling. I bicycled a lot of century bike rides. Um, there's a run called the Hood to Coast, and basically it's a group of runners where you start at Mount Hood, and it's a relay, and you start at Mount Hood and you end up at the Oregon coast. And so you get a bunch of smelly bodies crammed into a van, uh, and you basically rotate running this course over a period of 2 days. So that was interesting. So um, running, kayaking. I recently took up, well, not recently, I've been paddling for a dragon boat team for 10 years now. So the team is called the Fire Breathing Blowfish, and we paddle out of Portland. And so, if you don't know what dragon boating is, it's a narrow boat that holds 20 paddlers, a caller, and a tiller to steer the boat. And then we race anywhere from 250 to 500-yard races, and we race all over the Northwest, and sometimes we'll travel, and it's a lot of fun. We have a
Yeah.
great.
I mean, in your words, the person is at the front. You said calling, right? At the front. What is
Yes.
their role, and what's the right person for that role? I always wonder to have some ideas because when the Olympic comes around and stuff like that. But what is their role and how they add value?
That's a good question. I can speak specifically to our caller. His name is Jacob, and it's part motivator. It's also part looking down the narrow boat and seeing, what the issues are, and offer coaching to ensure that we're getting the most out of our stroke. And let me think. There's basically calling, tilling, and also race strategy. So every race, depending upon who we're racing against and the length of the race, he sets the pace for the boat. So we have a prescribed start, which is very fast, very aggressive, and then we settle into our longer stroke for the vast duration of the race, and then we have our finish where we really dig in and we just push to a very strong finish. So he's the one that calls out the type of stroke that we need for that particular race. So if you want to kind of tie that into an analogy of, say, a leadership of a company, I would say, leadership of a company, similarly, he's surveying the environment and what activity does that business need to, if it's a startup, you need a different stroke to start up a business. I liken it to launching a rocket ship. So to get that rocket ship off the launching pad, you need a lot of payload, a lot of energy, and that just gets it off the launching pad. And then once you break gravity, now you can back down the firepower, and you're a lot more efficient at that point in time. So a lot of businesses, I've noticed that they just don't have enough energy to launch, and they crash back down on the launching pad because they underestimate how much energy is involved in launching a business. But then, of course, you got the navigation, which actually in the dragon boat analogy, that's the tiller. He's steering the boat, and usually it's just in a straight line, so it's not that difficult, but to keep us on course. But again, using some of the analogies that I've read in a lot of business books is that a small course correction over time is a big thing. So if you're off course by even 1%, and you don't course correct back onto your chosen path, you're going to veer off, and it's going to take a lot more energy to get back on track. So discovering where you're off and making those quick course corrections, and I guess that's what a business plan does. Is the business plan lays out your course or your map, and then if you leave your business plan or your map by the wayside, you may drift before you know you're off course. So that's why going back to your business plan and referring to that on a regular basis to check where you're at relative to that is so important.
Yeah, great tie in there. Now, is there anything else that I did not ask you but you wanted to share?
It's a good question. Nothing really comes to mind. I came prepared pretty much just to engage with you on the direction you wanted to take the conversation. I will say, speaking to the building industry, I'm trying to pull some stuff up here, and speaking specifically to the professional contractor, I'll just share just insight. What I've noticed is that, and I will urge them, stop bidding and stop trying to be the cheapest number in the list of bidders. Understand the value that you offer to your customer or to the general contractor if you're a subcontractor, and promote and be able to communicate that value to those that you're selling to. And if you have nothing to promote, if there's nothing that differentiates you from the rest of those that you're competing against, find something that you can use to develop that will set you apart from the rest. And being the cheapest is really not a good differentiator, because once you have the cheapest price out there, somebody's going to undercut you, and it's going to be a race to the bottom.
Yeah, well said. I mean, what type of things have you seen as good differentiators, and where are the possible opportunities to communicate that?
Speaking to a specific trade, say the roofing industry, I'll tighten that down to the residential roofing company, because they're usually talking to the homeowner, trying to convince them that they offer, they're the best person to go with. And so the ones that I see that are being very successful is they're not the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the most successful ones tend to be a little bit on the higher side. But what they do is they offer premium warranties, premium product. They talk about roof ventilation. So they're bringing things into the conversation that other roofers aren't even talking about. So if you can bring in some building science into what you're doing, now you're setting yourself apart as someone who is knowledgeable and someone who can be trusted. And anyone who comes in that doesn't bring that knowledge to the table, they're going to be eliminated because, well, you must not know what you're doing because you didn't even talk about, roof ventilation or, the type of, type of underlayments that are out there and which ones perform better than the others. So it's not that hard to differentiate yourself. It's really a low bar, but most contractors that I work with, they're very good. Most of them are very good at what they do. They're hands-on. They're great craftsmen, but most of them are not educated or trained in how to market, how to develop a business. And so that's very useful to, if you're gonna say you're a contractor and you're working for a contracting firm, before you launch out, make sure you take some marketing classes and join a mastermind group, or make sure you brush up your business and marketing skills before you branch out. Because if you don't, you're going to be circling to the bottom like everyone else.